Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a stream that I wasn't really expecting to be doing this afternoon. And I'm joined by Matt yet again. And Matt, obviously, the news has just broken the last half hour or something. And but before we go on to talk about that, are you okay? Keeping well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Ben. Yeah, thanks very much for asking me on again.
No problem at all. Only one person we could go on really for this information that Mark Ashton is, you could say, finally leaving Bristol City after I think it's 5 years as the CEO at Bristol City now. And
Yep.
what were your? Well, it obviously came out. I think it was about 11 o'clock, wasn't it? 11:10 when the news broke. What was your first thoughts when you actually saw it?
I guess I'm not surprised, Ben. There's been so much talk in the media, with the Ipswich takeover from the group that have taken over there, and the fact that there was that link with Mark Ashton from their chairman. I think he's probably helped to broker the deal. So there's an old sort of saying: "There's very little smoke without fire." So there was always something in it. Am I surprised? I probably am, because I think he has a very good relationship with the Lansdownes. He's always at pains to sort of talk about the Lansdownes. But there's also a bit of me that I don't know whether he pays any attention to social media or things like that. The vast majority of Bristol City fans will be pleased with the fact that he's no longer going to be in the role. I'm a little bit more on the fence with it, Ben, if I'm honest with you, because I think there's a huge amount of change this summer, and it's about getting obviously someone in to replace him. But was I shocked? No, probably not, because of the media.
Yeah, that's the same. I'm not too sure I saw it, to be honest. I think there was part of it that was obviously I think he was controlling a lot of stuff at Bristol City. That maybe some of it wasn't actually his job, but obviously we have nothing to say that that is true. That is, and
exactly.
I think
That's the thing, though, Ben. We don't know. It would be
exactly.
great. It would be great to know from Steve Lansdown or whoever, but we really don't know what his remit is. Now, if his remit is to absolutely control transfers, other than really doing the training and picking the team, then what can you kind of expect? I think there's an element around recruitment. I think obviously your CEO is going to be involved in the recruitment, because he's the one that has to sort the contracts out. I don't think he should be involved in identifying players. I think that is really down to a footballing recruitment team. So I think that's probably been levered at Mark Ashton quite a bit. He's too involved in the day-to-day side of the football aspect, but we don't know whether that is absolutely what he's been asked to do by Steve Lansdown, his boss. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and I saw the pop up there about Richard Scudamore.
Yeah, got two comments here about it.
Yeah, which obviously Richard's a City fan, very, very experienced, but I don't know if it's a role that he would be interested in. So I guess for me, Ben, the bit for me is that it's the uncertainty. It's the fact that at the moment Nigel Pearson isn't employed, as a manager for next season. And so that needs sorting out. Now, is that something that Steve Lansman will sort out without a CEO being in place? Or will Mark Ashton sort that before he leaves? Will Mark Ashton be involved in contracts with players before he leaves? You'd like to think not, to an extent, because of the fact there's not been announced he's going to Liverpool. So Liverpool, Ipswich.
Ipswich, yeah.
That he is going to go there. So I don't know if I want him sorting out contracts when he's not going to be in charge next season.
Yeah, so we're going to go on to see the Bristol City article that they obviously put. We'll read through that, both give our thoughts on that, then talk a little about who we would like him. But we've got a few comments here, and this is one that I think a lot of Bristol fans would agree with, that he's obviously bought let's say he does have all the roles in the recruiting and all of that. I think he has definitely players that we've had, he's done well with. In my opinion, it's the recruiting after we've sold the likes of Bryan, Ayling, Brownhill, Webster. Here's another one that you can answer, Matt. Ipswich fan, he's saying obviously we expect him to go to Ipswich. Do you think he's a good CEO? Give your overall thoughts on him while he was at Bristol.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, my own view is that from a business perspective, a lot of things that have been put in place around the stadium, the high performance centre, the profile of the side has improved. There's no doubt about that. But you also have to say at the same time that was also because of what was happening on the field. First with Steve Cotterill, then with Lee Johnson, and the high profile games that we had. So I don't think Mark Ashton has done necessarily a bad job. What I would say is, from a fan base perspective, I've seen similar threads when he was at Watford, and then obviously similar now with from Bristol City point of view. I would be amazed if 95% of fans weren't pleased with this move. So from the Ipswich fans' point of view, do I think it's a good move for them? Probably in the starting point and where they are and where they're coming from of late. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably a good move for them. And I'm sure that he will develop them. It just depends again. We don't know what his remit is going to be there. If he's got total control like he's seemingly had here, then I'm sure they will end up going down the same path as us. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I think he's probably had too much involvement on what goes on the pitch, which for a fan's perspective is our most important thing, isn't it? I don't believe that he's picked players, but I do think that there's an element with the recruitment that they may have identified players. The manager would have had or the head coach at the time will have had the say in whether they sign or not. But I think that Mark Ashton has been key in some of that recruitment. So I think that's the bit really that I think a lot of fans feel the negative towards. I think your point around the players that he sold, he's done an amazing sort of deal with Lloyd Kelly, Adam Webster
as well,
Josh Brownhill. You can't say anything but, and we've got to be realistic as fans, that where we sit, we're always going to take those sort of offers. The money being offered for Lloyd Kelly, we were always going to take that. Adam Webster was an amazing deal. We were always going to take that. It's the replacement of those players where we've fallen down. We were lucky at the start in that the youngsters that came through were from the academy. So he's not had any involvement in those players. But you have to give him, credit for some of what he's done from a business point of view. I think the big thing for me, Ben, is his communication. I've often said it on Radio Bristol or even in on the Three Peeps podcast. We see a lot of Mark Ashton when things are going well. When things aren't going well, he disappears.
Hardly see him at all.
Yeah, he disappears. And
you can even see that recently when he's done like a high performance centre when that opens, but that he did an interview with that. But then when we're losing to Coventry, to Rotherham, to Stoke, don't even see his face at Ashton Gate.
And there's an element, Ben, where I'm not interested in the CEO on the pitch. From my point of view, I want to hear from Nigel Pearson when we win, when we lose. I think it's just the fact that we've got so used to seeing Mark Ashton and appearing on TV or on the radio when things were doing well, that, as I say, when things don't, then we're not seeing him. But similarly, you could say the same things about John Lansdowne. We're not seeing anything or hearing anything from John Lansdowne, who's chairman. So, we've got to be realistic. And it's a good point being made there. We don't know the whole story. And as fans, we don't. So it's very easy to be critical of him. What I would say is that Steve Lansdowne came out, I think it was on Radio Bristol, and was very clear the work that Mark Ashton did and said he put in a huge amount of hours, tremendous effort. So
for what though? On what is he working on?
Yeah, and that's, but we don't know.
Hello, Joshua.
You have to be, in some respects, careful what you wish for. And actually, Ipswich is case in point. They were. All right, had come out of the Prem, were in the Championship and have been in established Championship side for years and years under Mick McCarthy. Mick McCarthy goes, and they've been in freefall ever since, really. So sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for. But I think on the balance, it's probably the right move all round for both Bristol City and the fan base, and from Ipswich's point of view, if he does get confirmed, as we all expect.
I think the main thing, if he does move to Ipswich, is how much, as you said, how much sort of control he does and what he is controlling Ipswich. I think if he just controls the behind the scenes sort of stuffs and maybe a little bit of the transfers, then I think he'll do well. But I think if what it looks like at Bristol City, he's been given a lot of reign on a lot of stuff, I think that's where his downfall could come.
And it's a good point, Ben. But again, I'll go back to it. We don't necessarily know.
Yeah, exactly. Don't know anything really.
A, what he's been told to do, and B, what he's done. I mean, you have to question the medical side of things. You've got to question what's gone on. In terms of the injuries that we've had, and I believe Mark Ashton has brought in all of that team, so that's not gone well. He's sanctioned off, and as well as the head coaches as well, but he's sanctioned off a lot of rubbish in terms of players that we've signed. But there's never any guarantees. The likes of Liverpool and Man United sign players for millions and millions of pounds that don't work out.
Yeah.
So there is no guarantee in football. But I think my thing for Ipswich fans would be if he concentrates on the business aspect and developing the club and those sort of elements, then I think he will do very well. And I think they will certainly improve. If he gets involved in recruitment and more of the footballing aspect, then I think you'll probably find that in 3, 4, 5 years' time, they will feel very similar to the way that we feel.
Yeah, I fully agree there. So let's look at what Bristol City obviously had to say on their website. Let's put that up here then. Okay, so they obviously started off with Mark Ashton will step down as Bristol manager at the end of the season. And so that's obviously not
CEO, not manager.
CEO, yeah.
He acted like manager.
already thinking ahead to when hopefully we see Nigel Pearson announced as manager on May 31st. Following obviously, as we said, 5 years at the club. Do you think it is weird why it's on May 31st at the end of the season? I just think it's just because there's no point doing it now, really, is there? Ipswich are not going to make any move for him now while they're looking to get into the playoffs.
Possibly, like I say, because of the contract situation. I don't know what his contract may be.
Transfers.
All of that. They may still want him to be involved in sorting some of that stuff out. It may be because they'll get a new man in and they want to do a transition to the new man. You just don't know. So I'm not surprised necessarily that it's at the end of the season.
He's moving. It looks like he's moving to Ipswich, Joseph. So I think that's why he's obviously had a long time at Bristol City and starting to. It's looked like it's been coming to the end really all season, hasn't it?
Yeah.
With what he's with social media and everything like that. So Bristol City owner Steve Lansdowne said, "I've enjoyed working closely with Mark throughout his time here. Obviously, that being 5 years, it's disappointing to see him go. But I understand there comes a time in everyone's career where they want to take on a new challenge." And we obviously saw, I think it might have been, was it Thursday or it might even be Friday when he obviously flew up to Bristol and where he spoke to, I expect, Mark Ashton and both Nigel Pearson. Do you think it was Steve Lansdowne wanting him to or wanting the CEO job to be changed at Bristol City, or do you think it was Mark Ashton wanting to leave to obviously go to Ipswich?
Yeah, I think it's Mark Ashton wanting to leave. As I said, there's been so much talk of it before the takeover. It was very clear in all the media that the sort of group, and apologies, I forget what they're called, but the group that's taking charge of Ipswich, it was talked about before they'd even announced that they were taking over. That Mark Ashton was the man that they wanted. So I think it's very much that. And I think if you read what Steve said there, the fact that he's saying it comes apart when someone wants a new challenge, he's making it clear that it's Mark Ashton that wants to go. So
yeah, he has. As I said earlier, it has definitely looked like it looked like he will be going, especially when the first sort of rumours that the US, I think it's like consortium or something like that, just were looking like they're going to be taking over Ipswich. That they said before, and there were rumours that Mark Ashton was going to be going to Ipswich, and I expect I expect once obviously the new Ipswich, what they called new Ipswich owners and stuff have got settled down, they'll probably start working towards getting Mark Ashton and others they're looking towards as well.
Yes, it's an interesting one as well, because if rumours are true, Paul Cook was interviewed for the role of head coach in the summer of last year. and obviously is now the Ipswich head coach manager. So that's an interesting one. See the dynamic there. Again, we don't know what went on with those interviews. We don't know who was spoken to, etc. I think that in hindsight, the appointment of Dean Holden wasn't a success. And again, Mark Ashton will take a fair bit of criticism for that. And we can only comment on what we see and hear in the media.
Yeah.
It felt very much like it was a Mark Ashton, John Lansdowne decision that Steve Lansdowne then sanctioned, as opposed to being what we kind of feel with Nigel Pearson, where Steve Lansdowne is taken more of a front foot on it. But again, that's just surmising. We don't know that for sure.
That's definitely something we do need. Definitely something that I think me and Matt just said, that I think a bit of why he's not leaving until the end of the season is going to be sorting out all the contracts and stuff, and we don't want to have that worry of having to get a new CEO in rushed just to sort out all of what's going on.
As a club, we need to have the players we want to keep. It needs to be very clear. And Nigel Pearson, I'm sure, will know the players he wants to keep, but that situation needs to be sorted out very, very quickly so that
Definitely.
we can then move forward. But it's another aspect to it that as the CEO and purely from a business point of view, albeit that it's football related, but Mark Ashton is the man in charge and has allowed Famara Diédhiou to see his contract out. Now, admittedly, Steve Lansdowne allegedly came out sort of Christmas time saying that he was happy with that, rather than selling them cheaply. But potentially he goes, potentially Nathan Baker, worth, arguably 4 or 5 million. He goes because he's out of contract. Potentially Liam Walsh goes because he's out of contract. That's an awful lot of money.
I think that's like 13
that we're allowing. Yeah, an awful lot of asset that you're allowing out the door for nothing. So there's a bit of a criticism there for Mark Ashton that we've allowed contracts to get to that situation, really.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I think other clubs are going to start to rushing in for the likes of Vyman, Walsh, who, if Walsh goes to the right club, he could be a very good player, and it's Semenyo also, and Dan Bentley. Not that their contracts are running out, but we spoke about it, I think, a few weeks ago, that their other Premier League teams are looking for them. So I think this summer, as well as a clear out for Nigel Pearson or whoever the new manager is, it's going to be a lot of a massive summer transfer-wise for Bristol City. So another thing, Mark, this is obviously still from Steve Lansdowne. Mark has been an integral part of what we have created over the last few years, helping build a strong foundation for the club moving forward. His work as an EFL director has also been a benefit in raising the club's profile. I'd like to thank Mark, all his work, and everyone at Bristol City. Wish him the best in the future. Do you think talking about his future, do you think it's pretty much confirmed that he's going to be going to Ipswich?
It would be a surprise if not, wouldn't it? I mean, again, why would he be leaving a job that's paying him hundreds of thousands of pounds a year to not have something lined up? It's interesting. His stock is quite high. I think he was sort of CEO of the year within the football industry a couple of years back. And again, he knows the guys that are in charge in Ipswich, so I'm pretty sure he will be. And that's a really good point from Elliot there about putting him on garden leave, because absolutely, if that was in any other industry, that's the sort of thing that would happen. Do I want him necessarily sorting out our new manager, our new contracts? No, I don't. So yeah, really good point there. Yeah,
that's what he's saying. And as much as we do kind of need him to be sorting out all of these contracts, it's also part of me as a Bristol City fan that would rather have, as he said, Steve or John Lansdowne sorting them all out. Or maybe
it could be that he is on garden leave. They may very well have that might be what it is, and it's officially that he leaves at the end of May. We just don't know, but it's a really good point. No, it's a really good point. You don't really want him sorting anything for the future of our club out, knowing that he's going to be going elsewhere to Ipswich more likely. Yeah,
I think it's just because he wants to, really. I think that's why he's leaving. So more on the thing. During Ashton's time at City, he's established Bristol City as a sustainable championship club, pathway of talent. Do you think this little part, saying all the stuff that's happened at Bristol City over the time, do you think Mark Ashton has had a lot to do with all of it? With obviously the academy getting brought up as a very good thing over the last few years, high performance centre, the stadium, all of that.
Yeah, 100%. I really do. I've been to lots of away games, and he's always there. He's always with the manager when I've sort of seen him, the head coach.
Post match as well,
Yeah,
obviously as well.
and obviously a lot of the big ticket elements that have gone on at the club, he's been the face in the media. And it's ironic, really, because as I say, I think that is genuinely where he's let himself down. I think that's where, from a fan base perspective, if he would have been more open with us, and he did the interview with Jeff Twentyman going back a couple of months, and then talked about he would come on regularly and things like that. I think he's a great spin doctor. He should be a politician, Mark Ashton. But when he speaks, he's very careful and measured with what he says. He doesn't give much away. But he just stopped doing it, and we stopped hearing from him. So, it's one of those. But I don't know what we expect from a CEO. If I look at, say, Man United, who I'm quite fond of, and Ed Woodward, you don't see him coming out a great deal in the media and saying an awful lot. So maybe Mark Ashton was too upfront. And as fans, that's not what we want to see. But I'm not going to sit here and slag the bloke off. I've been in his company at numerous sort of events Radio Bristol have put on in one thing or another, and I've liked the way that he speaks. I've come out of those sort of events at times feeling quite enthused about where my football club was going to be going, because he's a good salesman, and he really is. And maybe I'd bought a car off him if he'd have been selling cars, because he's that good. But am I disappointed he's going? Probably not, on the balance, because, as I say, I think he was, more than anybody, was the one element that fans were really struggling, to kind of get behind. And I think if Steve Lansdown's got any sense, which he's got a huge amount, obviously, they announced Nigel Pearson, in the next day or two.
Soon,
and that will then see a boost in season ticket sales, because fans will be delighted that Mark Ashton's going, which, ironically, as I say, I think he's done a lot of good as well. So as an Ipswich fan from where they are, I don't think it's necessarily a bad move for them, short term anyway. But I think that they now need to act and sort the manager situation out.
Definitely.
But yeah, I do think. I mean, I've had lots of WhatsApp this morning from mates of mine with how happy they are, and I've not seen one negative comment really about the fact they're disappointed he's going.
Nowhere. A lot of people are very happy, and I think, as you said, there's loads of pros and cons for him leaving and staying. But I think, like in many things, and I think not the hate, but you know what I mean, the fans getting on his back. I think a lot of it came from when Holden was appointed. I think that's when it all really started, and he hasn't helped himself really.
I think even before that, he wasn't a popular figure, was he?
No.
But you're right. The summer appointment and the way that it was kind of it was dealt with, the phraseology that was used about Dean Holden being a good human, that just didn't. And it's ironic because he is a football man, Mark Ashton, but it just didn't come across well.
No.
So you're right. I think a lot of people felt that it was the wrong move at the time. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Thank you, Jude. I appreciate that. And before we go on to see what Mark Ashton had to say about obviously leaving Bristol City, do you think, as you said there, Pearson is the right man for the Bristol City job?
Good question from Elliot, but personally I do. Again, there's no guarantees, but I do think that we need somebody to come in and really sort of steady the ship, and as a football man with experience, that what we want is always a gamble. You just don't know. There will be other names
promoted.
Yeah, exactly. And there will be other names that fans will talk about, the likes of Eddie Howe and now Chris Wilder as well. But
Chris Wilder's not a bad shout, actually.
No, but Chris Wilder was at his boyhood club, Sheffield United.
Yeah,
He was a huge fan. To be fair to him, he did really well at Northampton and really well at Oxford. So, but again, if Chris Wilder was coming to us now from Oxford and Northampton, we would be questioning it. So
yeah,
it's because he did what he did at Sheffield United and got them promoted, and then they're likely to finish now. Obviously 2 seasons in with a poor sort of number of points and stuff. So there are no guarantees with it. So personally, for me, Nigel Pearson is the right man. You can only really judge any manager, I think, on transfer windows and when they start to get their own players
yeah.
in. You might get the initial bounce, but it's not their team.
No.
Yeah.
I spoke to Nigel Pearson last week, and in all the interviews he's done, even when he was speaking to me, he definitely does sound like he's got long-term plans at Bristol City. We can talk. Do you think he
100%.
is the right man? But do you think he'll sign on? Not maybe in the next few days, but maybe even longer than that.
Like you said, Ben, and listening to your interview with him, which was excellent again, mate.
Thank
I
you.
do think he's very much in that place. I would have been surprised anyway. A man of his caliber
I think he
would have.
wants it as well.
Yeah, I'd have been surprised if he would have taken it, thinking that it was only going to be till the end of the season. He kind of had a short-term spell at Derby and at Watford. I'm sure he wants to settle down and make a mark. And although we're obviously all biased as Bristol City fans, but we are a big club in the waiting in terms of the infrastructure with what we've now got at the ground and the high performance centre. We're an attractive proposition to any new manager. And I also think to potentially any CEO, but it's again getting the right CEO in. Now, Richard Scudamore, we're talking about, who's obviously a football man. I don't know whether he would come in and he would want to do the same kind of stuff that Mark Ashton's done. So you really just don't know. We've got to wait and see, understand what's involved. But I think the key is you get the head coach, or the manager rather, appointed as soon as
Yeah,
possible and let him start to plan next season. I think we're safe now.
that's what we
So I
need.
think, now needs to get in. And for me, he needs to get his own coaching team in. He needs to get his own recruitment team in. He needs to get his own medical team in, because there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever something is fundamentally wrong with either the way that we train or from a medical point of view, and that really needs looking at. So they're the key things for me. They're the key things for me.
Yeah, he is. Ezra, he's gone on the 31st of May. In a month's time, he'll be fully gone, and I reckon that's when Ipswich will probably announce it a week or two
Yes,
in June. So this is what Mark Ashton had to say about it. I want to thank the Lansdowne family for their support over the last 5 years that he's obviously been at Bristol City. It's been an incredible role and a privilege to be CEO of Bristol City. I want to give credit to the staff who have worked tirelessly here, and who I will miss very much. The club is in excellent hands with such dedicated and passionate people. During my time here, it has been a priority to steer the club in a proper and stable way to see the integration of the I think that's how you say, I don't know, academy and the
interrogation. Yeah.
women's team into
Integration. Yeah,
integration of the academy and women's team into one club structure, and that's obviously he has done that in the last month or two, bringing the high performance centre in for the academy as well. And of course, to see, as I said, the Romans High Performance Centre. The club's in a great position to take the next step forward, and it feels now is the right time for myself to move on and embrace a new challenge, which I expect is going to be Ipswich Town. Bristol City World will consider its options beyond May 31st with an imminent focus on finishing the season positively. So do you think that obviously we've talked about it being a good move for both Bristol City and Mark Ashton? Do you think with him looking like he will be going to Ipswich Town, that we'll be able to get someone in quickly over the summer to start working on helping Nigel Pearson and getting his team ready for next season, if he does say that hopefully he will?
Yeah, I mean, again, with all the rumours that were going on, Steve Lansdowne would have been having conversations with Mark Ashton anyway. So I'm pretty sure that this was in the offing for a little while. So I'm sure there are other steps being taken to look at a replacement and what they want to do. So yeah, and it's a good point from Elliot there. We're talking about Richard Scudamore, but he may not. He's a Bristol City fan. Does he necessarily want to tarnish that by getting involved in and potentially getting the flack that Mark Ashton's got? So but I would fully suspect that they've already got irons in the fire on that front. And a decision will be forthcoming. Again, not likely to be announced until after sort of 31st of May. But again, it could move quickly. You just don't know because, as we said, we'd expect him to be on garden leave as opposed to carrying on working there. So we'll wait and see. And yeah, there's lots of talk around Steve Walsh from a recruitment point of view, who's over in America at the moment, but worked with Nigel Pearson previously. I've just seen the pop up there, Craig Shakespeare. Craig Shakespeare's at Aston Villa with Dean Smith at the moment, and lots of sort of fans have sort of said, well, why would he want to leave that role in the Premier League? But he's not his number two. Dean Smith's got.
Is John Terry still there?
John Terry's still there, and the other guy, his name's completely escaped me, but Richard, someone who was at Bristol City for a while.
I'll just look it up now.
And was at Walsall, but so he's not his number two necessarily. So and we don't know the relationship that he's got with Nigel Pearson. That might be something that he would be interested in, but I do feel the time now, especially with Mark Ashton going, it's time for a kind of clean sweep and get in the right people to take this club forward for the next 5 years. We have to be patient. We can't expect things to be miraculous next season. We're struggling at the moment in the division, and we're fortunate that we picked up the points, and credit to Dean Holden early in the season for that. But we're struggling at the moment, and we need to really sort ourselves out and get a strong foundation in place. So I think that's key for me, is get Nigel Pearson on board. Or if it's not Nigel Pearson, make the decision quickly. We can't go through another summer where we're waiting around to find out what's going to happen. And whilst I've renewed my season ticket yesterday, there are plenty of fans, understandably, that haven't and are waiting to see.
Do you think that will be the main thing if Nigel Pearson signs on in the next? Well, he's got 5 games left, so it's 3 odd weeks in the next week or two, and then obviously if we end the season on a good run, like I've been saying for months now that we need to do heading into next season.
I think it'll be a big, certainly with looking at the fans forums and some of the comments that we've had on the Three Peeps in the podcast. I do think that lots of fans will renew on the basis of Nigel Pearson getting the job, and I agree. I know Elliot was posing it as a question, but there will understandably be some fans that kind of question, is he the right man? Because aside from the couple of wins we had with Middlesbrough and Swansea. And obviously Middlesbrough, he was literally sat in the stands just through the door. There will be fans questioning him. I think you can only look at what a man's done before. I really, really like the way that he comes across and the way that he speaks. Knowing from a couple of people at the club, they're very impressed with how he goes about his business. So I personally think, get him signed on, 3-year contract. And then I think fans will then feel like, yes, I'm going to renew. And as I say, on the back of Mark Ashton going as well, some fans will feel the same. So I've been following the club for 45, 46 years. And this for me feels an absolutely massive summer. It's almost as big as when 1982, when we were going out of existence. This feels, it's not as big as that, of course it's not, but it feels like it's a really pivotal moment in our history. Because if they get the right decisions now, it could lead to the goal that we want and Premier League football. If we get it wrong, and we continue the struggles into next season that we're finishing this season
and we don't get any new players in,
and make no bones about it, the sides that are likely to get relegated this year in Rotherham, if they go, but certainly it looks like Wycombe and Sheffield Wednesday are going to go. The clubs coming up, the likely clubs of Hull, Peterborough,
Sunderland,
maybe Sunderland, they will get investment and they will be stronger. I think we've been slightly fortunate. Sheffield Wednesday had the big points deduction. Wycombe were always going to be punching above their weight. So I think there's an element of we're fortunate that there are certainly 3 worse teams below us this season. that might not be the case next season. But season on season, it changes, doesn't it? You get a run of form, and if you start winning games, then that builds confidence. And even poorer squads, man to man might not be as good, but when you get that confidence and you build on it, then who knows what could happen. So yeah,
definitely. And just to end off this, pardon me, this summer is going to be absolutely massive. And as Elliot said there, it's going to be, it can either go 2 ways. And as she said, we can get on Pearson or a new manager quickly. We can renew some contracts, sell some players, get some new players in, and start off next season on a good run, heading into obviously the Christmas break and stuff. And then, or we can not do that, and we could be in even worse place talking
100%.
sorry, this time next year. So it's definitely going to be a massive summer. And do you think, what, just to end it off, are you I know it sounds weird, but you confident heading into a summer break?
I am really nervous. I think there's so many.
I think a lot of fans are.
Yeah, I think there's
because of the way that it can go 2 ways.
Yeah, so many things. You got the whole sort of COVID finance situation, but you've also got a lot of players, as I say. Liam Walsh, Nathan Baker, the likes of Jamie Patterson. Even Jamie's been a big part of the club. He's obviously, his injuries haven't been great and his form hasn't been great. Over the last sort of 18 months, he's had ups and downs. But there are players like that go. So it could be a very, very different Bristol City next season. That might not necessarily be a bad thing, but whatever side we get next season, we've got to get back to the sort of camaraderie and the way that Steve Cottrell side developed, and the friendship they sort of formed was a massive reason why we were so successful. So you have to get the right characters in, and it's all a gamble. We've signed Naki Wells for the money we've spent on him. He's not looked anything like the player that we would have hoped for, and the goals, and he's been played out of position. I appreciate that, but even on the weekend. So there are no guarantees at all. You just got to hope. But yeah, I as I say, I think it's a massive, massive summer, Ben, this year.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And hopefully we'll be doing another one of these in a week or so when Nigel Pearson leaves, but
fingers crossed when he gets appointed, and he announces his backroom staff, and
yeah, I think that's going to be a main thing, really, isn't it? When he's got down and he's in his office and he's deciding what he's going to do next year. I think because I reckon when Steve Lansdowne flew over to talk to it, I think they have decided. In my opinion, I think are close to deciding, or are very close to deciding.
Yeah, and we don't know with agents, with there's a huge amount that must go on with contracts for managers, let alone for players. So we don't know. I just think timing wise, with the season tickets in particular, I think they need to come out and make that decision now.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to make that today because of the Mark Ashton situation. It may be a few days. It may be after the weekend's game. Who knows? But I would be very, very surprised if it's not sort of forthcoming.
Yeah. So and we'll definitely be making an own video on that. And thanks for joining me today, Matt.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking me, Ben. Appreciate it, and some great comments as well from the guys.
Yeah, definitely. That's been a lot. Thank you to everyone who's watched today. They'll obviously, as I said, we'll hopefully be doing another one of these in a week or so time. And there'll be an interview up tomorrow with Manchester City correspondent Sam Lee, who's a journalist who's obviously, he's probably he's written the Bristol versus Man City games, so I might have to ask him about that. But yeah, there'll be a video on that either today or this afternoon or tomorrow morning, and I'll see you guys all for that, and obviously another one hopefully soon for the Nigel Pearson video, and then an end of season sort of review that I'll probably get a lot of fans on, and we could do like an hour or 2 hour show about all the season and all the games and stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching today's stream. Thanks, Matt, again for joining.
Pleasure.
And it's true. Mark Ashton has left Bristol City as CEO. So I'll see you guys all for the next video, and thank you all for watching.